because if you're listed on the New York Stock Exchange, apparently you don't have to fill out those transaction receipts for transactions over $10,000. You don't have to explain where your money comes from. And they say it's numbering in about $500 million annually in liquid cash through the economy. So if you wanted to stop the drug running, you would be pulling $500 million worth of liquid cash annually, and that's conservatively out of the US
Vinny,
economy.
let me correct your numbers, because I think you're a little bit light on the amount of money that is actually going through in drug trade. Globally, the drug trade is about $1.4 trillion per year. That's the global value of what drugs are currently. If you look at the Bank of America, when they bought Wachovia in 1 year, Wachovia laundered $383 billion of drug proceeds. That's one bank, Wachovia, and that they're now a subsidiary of B of A, and this is public record. I didn't make this up, but the global numbers on drug trafficking is about $1.4 trillion per year. And you look at this and how you've hit the nail on the head. But the identification of your source of funds, the New York traded companies are exempted. So you can go out and create yourself a bulletin board company out there that's got next to nothing. It's publicly traded. They can trade money back and forth. And that is what one of the sources is for a lot of this campaign funding that's going on. So far this year, just in the presidential election, there's been $600 million invested in this election so far. It's going to top $1 billion. And you look at the other money for the Senate seats, you look at for the House of Representatives, the governorships, the state houses. Newt Gingrich gave a plan back in 1994 about how it would cost $300 million to buy control of the U.S. And Newt Gingrich was right, and that's exactly what they did. And that's one of the reasons that people of this country have been, I will say it again, disenfranchised.
Well, how can you undisenfranchise them? I have very little solutions personally as a radio show host. It would be quite difficult for me to ascertain something that would work. However, I'm very open to possibilities and working through solutions. And there's also other things like the mathematically perfect economy and a number of other things. And after the break, Mike, I'd like to get you to divulge some of your knowledge of what's happening with illegal immigration in the United States, and particularly the southern borders around Arizona, where you have been for some time. So Mike Harris, ladies and gentlemen, from Veterans Today and republicbroadcasting.org. We will be right back after the break at thevinnyeastwoodshow.com.
Do you realize every day we are being put under constant stress from wireless radiation? What's worse is that you don't even know that it's happening. It puts as much stress on our body as if we had a constant viral infection, draining our energy and sapping our strength, or just making us irritable and fatigued. These wireless fields are being emitted from computers, microwaves, mobile phones, power lines, and any electrical appliance. Now there is a solution. A group of research engineers in New Zealand have come up with an active shielding device that shields you from wireless radiation at a cellular level. Blue Shield comes in 3 models: a household, portable, and USB that plugs into any computer. The great thing about Blue Shield is it is very affordable and guaranteed to last. A one-off purchase will see you being protected for years to come. Visit AmericanFreedomRadio.com and click on the Blue Shield banner. Blue Shield, brought to you by theVinnyEastwoodShow.com.
No matter where you live, globalism affects you. Did you know that the Vinny Eastwood Show has more subscribers than New Zealand Herald TV and is New Zealand's most popular YouTube news channel, where warm-hearted humour and a list of awesome guests talk about crucial issues which the mainstream media ignore? A show where you, the listener, can phone up with questions, comments and suggestions of guests. Vinny is building a hub to connect truthers with raw information they need to become active. He can help you gain further skills such as website building, producing audio and video, and creating revenue streams in your own multimedia environment. Because Vinny supports such a wide range of people in the truth movement, he is not government or corporate backed and relies entirely on your donations. Give now, give generously, or subscribe for $10 a month for access to ad-free video archives. Just visit theVinnyEastwoodShow.com and click donate.
Everyone's asleep.
Everyone's asleep. Everyone but me. And I can't help feel like I'm doing this all by myself. You listen to the Vinny Eastwood Show, hour number 2, the fastest 2 hours in talk radio with my very special guest, Mike Harris. Now, Mike, I wanted to get your take on this as well, because I've seen a number of different articles that frankly have scared the hell out of me about illegal immigration in the United States, how many people are coming across the border per hour, per day, the enormous problems with the drug cartels, grenade attacks on border towns, and millions of dollars worth of weaponry being seized, this kind of thing. Like, you've got enough weapons being seized in a single seizure to practically start a domestic insurrection, right? How big is this problem?
Well, you've asked a series of questions there, and let's break it down a little bit here, because I'll tell you, I took a year off last year. I went and went out and bought an RV travel trailer, and I went up and I spent the year just taking off. The economy was in the doldrums. There's no jobs to be found anyway, so when you have downtime, take advantage of it, right? So I went up to Oregon, and I was hanging around up there. I was going hiking in the mountains and, going down to the beach and just having a great time. And I got a call from a guy who I met during my campaign for governor, who wanted to run for the sheriff of Pinell County. And Pinell County is not directly a border county. It's one county north of the border. But it is key to the drug traffic and the human traffic that comes across the border, because it's the intersection of the Interstate 10 and the Interstate 8. And if the drugs or the illegal aliens who are being trafficked can make it to that corridor, they can be anywhere in the country via the interstate highway system within 24 hours. It's a 21-hour trip by car from that intersection to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so if they could get to there, they're pretty much home free. They're safe. They get on the interstate system, and that's where they go. So anyway, this guy called me up. His name was J.T. Reddy. He called me. I knew him. He'd been a friend. We'd gotten close after the campaign, and he decided he was going to run for sheriff of Pinell County. So I came down here to work on his campaign. I was going to take a position with his campaign and do my very level best to help him get elected, because I think he had enough steel in his spine to stand up to the cartels and not be corrupted by the corrosive influence that much money has. Well, he was running as a Democrat, unopposed in the primary. And May 2nd, he was murdered by the cartels. Him and his entire family, 5 people were shot and killed, including a 16-month-old baby girl, which was his wife's granddaughter. One of his wife's daughters, the son-in-law, the baby, the wife, and himself were all shot in the left temple. And there were many witnesses. They saw 2 cars leaving, and the local police branded it as a murder-suicide, when in fact the signature of the cartels, or one of the signatures, is a shot through the left temple and to kill the entire family. What the murderers did not realize is that there was another teenage girl, a 17-year-old, who was upstairs hiding under the bed. They tried to make it sound like he killed his family and he killed himself. He did not. Not a round was fired out of either of his 2 personal weapons that he carried. And the news media painted this as a murder-suicide, and it's a fraud. But the border violence is here. It's here in the United States. Now, week before last, in Cochise County, the sheriff down there is a guy named Larry Deaver, who I regard as a friend. And whenever I was running for governor, he was very supportive. And I have a 13-year-old boy who, at the time I was running for governor, was an 8-year-old boy, 7-year-old boy. And Sheriff Deaver, it was his personal hero, because the sheriff had a chance to meet with him, interact with him, and just was really good with my son, and really endeared himself to me for being kind to my boy. Sheriff Deaver was killed 2 weeks ago in a 1-car accident, where there's a technique that's used by various agencies called Boston brakes, where if you've got an electronic computer in your car that controls your engine, your brakes, everything else, it can be taken over, it can be seized from a distance, and your car can be made to accelerate very rapidly. Well, the black box has been gotten out of Deaver's truck. He was killed, single car accident, no one else on the road. His car accelerated from 27 miles an hour to 62 miles an hour in less than 4 seconds. Sheriff Deaver was murdered, no doubt, by the cartels. He was the last clean, honest sheriff. And what you look for on this, Deaver was also running unopposed in his jurisdiction. He was extremely popular in his county. And now it was after the primary. It was a week after the primary that he was murdered. So now there's no one who can sign up and have a special election to run against him. So the appointee, who was someone entirely out of left field, is going to run unopposed. And I'll guarantee you that we can find fingerprints to that individual, to the cartels. I'll guarantee it. I've not done the work. I'm not at liberty to speak because private parties are investigating this, and we will get to the truth of this. We will find out who did this.
Let's hope so, because I've seen so many of these things happen and get ruled suicides by dirty coroners and all of these other fake people who get brought in. And again, it brings back to the apparatus. I mean, you see the similar thing when children get kidnapped by, say, Child Protective Services. You go to the sheriff to go, please, help me get my child back. He's on the take. And then you go to the doctors to try and prove to him that you never hurt your child or anything like. He's on the take. And you go to a psychiatrist for the mental anguish and things like that, and they say, oh, don't worry about it, just trust the authority. She's on the take. So you've got this whole apparatus where everybody you would go to for help is already the one messing you up, or part of it.
Well, you have to look at this and realize that these criminals out there have studied our system for a long time and have identified where the weaknesses and where the choke points are. And they've managed to put their people in there. But the message I want to get to the American people, and really the people worldwide, is that the drug war is here. It's home. It's in America. I'm currently located in Vehicle Valley, which is one of the primary drug cartel corridors within the U.S., and I'm out here to watch and observe. And the human trafficking, you see, I don't really blame the Mexican people for wanting to come here, because their country is such a dung heap. It just is. But I also blame them because they're coming here and they're bringing with them the things they're fleeing from. They're bringing them into my country, and they're corrupting my country. They're corrupting the culture of my country. And they're having a terrible effect on American workers, and that is they're suppressing wages. When I was a kid, my first job, I was 14 years old. I got a job as a dishwasher. I was making 90 cents an hour. I was probably worth about 70. But today, if I was a young kid in high school, I couldn't get that job as a dishwasher because some 30-year-old Mexican man is going to have it, and he's going to work for less money than I would as a teenage boy. And so that's what's happening to our country, and we're having such pressure on the American worker across the board. And like we stated before, none of these issues are operating in isolation. They all operate collectively. You look at how the American economy has been destroyed by offshoring. That's downward pressure on wages for American workers. You look at the illegal aliens coming in here. It's more downward pressure on wages for Americans. And we have to stop these things. I don't have any grievance against the Mexican people. They just don't belong in my country. And our government's been lying to us about this. I mean, for at least 15 years, they've been saying that there's approximately 11 million illegals in this country.
Oh, Mike, you're breaking up something chronic there, mate. Pulling a Megatron
Well,
voice.
they've been saying that for 15 years. I hate when that happens. Hopefully this will be short-lived.
Yeah. They usually correct themselves out as like a little bit of a waveform, and it'll reach a peak and then a trough, and you're back.
Okay, everything is digitized. But what I was saying there is that all of these issues are interrelated, and we have to solve them all. But the place for the Mexican people is not in the United States. The place for them is in Mexico. They're fleeing terrible conditions, and I have to blame a lot of the poverty and the plight of why Mexicans are coming into this country on NAFTA again.